Well, good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I'm Celeste Giordano, your show host, with my co host, Sara Poe. And this is the Global Legacy and Wealth Building for the next hour. We're the Worldwide Empowerment Community Group where we speak life in the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. We also have some new platforms. We have an Apple Store at WCEG Talk Radio. We also have Google Play. We have Alexa play WCEG Talk Radio. We have 12 platforms. And last but not least, our disclaimer, those topics and opinions are those of the show host and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. And thank you, Penny Rogers, WCEG Network, and your board for this opportunity to serve. This is our 5th year serving WCEG Network, and this is our 5th year with our special guest today, Kim Scouller and Sara. And this is our 5th year working together as well as co-hosts. How are you both ladies doing today?
Really good. It's wonderful to be here.
Absolutely. Sara, and how are you today?
I'm great. Got my, red and black on. I'm ready for the game.
Absolutely. This is a big Georgia, Florida game this Saturday. And I'm sure many of us will be watching that. So it's going to be a fun game. And Sara, I take it you're recuperating from tax season. I know you were on the show earlier this month, and things are hopefully coming to a standstill for you, so to speak, where you don't have a bunch of late filers.
Yeah, we're getting there. We got one more deadline, the nonprofit deadline.
Oh, that's right. When is that?
November 15th.
November 15th. All right, very good. Make sure our nonprofit is in there.
Oh, yeah, ours is done. Yeah, ours has been done.
Been done, absolutely. And Kim, you have been traveling all over. It's so hard to keep up with you. You're in New York, you're in California, you're all over the place. And how are you doing?
I'm doing really good, but a little tired.
I bet you are. I don't know what it's like traveling on the airplanes right now, and especially with, the government shut down and everything. Are you having any trouble with the travel?
I haven't had any trouble at all. I'm based in Atlanta, so I'm very fortunate to have Hartsfield-Jackson here. And there really has not been an issue, knock wood, so far.
Absolutely. And, the also with COVID on the rise right there, and this month here in the month of October, I've spoken to a lot of people that have come down with COVID this month. And
Wow.
some of them were flying, some of them were traveling, vacation, whatever. So I'm sure it's on the uptick. So, we just need to take care of ourselves, and we just pray that everything goes well for all the travelers you got between now and the end of the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Is there anything you want to update us with Poe's Accounting Services?
No, we're having a big planning meeting on Thursday, me and the team, and I got some good ideas brewing, so I'll let you know in a few weeks.
There you go. Well, that's positive. And, it's got the last couple of months of the year, and I'm sure people need to be reaching out to not only a financial planner, their CPA, their bookkeeper, accountant, anything and any things that are going on between now and the end of the year that may affect their taxes for 2026. So again, Poe's Accounting Services, Sara Poe, and we're going to get started if you guys are ready.
Sounds great.
Okay, Kim, I'm going to read your bio, and it is just a phenomenal bio. And Kim Scouller is recognized as a leading advocate for financial literacy. She has been an attorney for more than 30 years and served as in-house counsel for one of the largest financial services companies in the world. Her last 4 years at Transamerica, she served as the president of their broker-dealer with the largest number of registered representatives. Wanting more control over her time, Kim left her corporate career to start her own financial business and law firm based in the Atlanta area. A certified financial educator, Kim continues to speak with people about the importance and impact of financial education that leads to literacy. She recently co-authored the book, How Money Works. There we go. How Money Works for Women. Stop Control or Lose It. Or excuse me, Stop Control or Lose It with Sharon Letcher, who co-authored Rich Dad, Poor Dad, as well as several other New York Times bestselling books. In 2024, their book received the Independent Press Award for Women's Issue, and in 2025, Investment News recognized Kim as a woman to watch for her works as a financial literacy champion. Let's give Kim a round of applause for that. That's amazing, Kim. Since launching the book in 2023, she has spoken to thousands of women about financial literacy at virtual meetings and in-person events from coast to coast. The book has also been well received for the media, resulting in several interviews with major outlets such as ABC, CBS, CNBC, Fox, and NBC, and print articles for esteemed publications like Newsweek and Forbes. My goodness, Kim. That is amazing. Psst, you're hot. Her financial literacy works goes beyond the book. It's also about advocating against systematic social barriers that fuel financial inequity. Kim believes it is important to shed light on critical issues too many women experience, like domestic violence, noting that 99% of survivors face financial control as a silent and pervasive form of abuse. By addressing these harsh realities, Kim's goal is to empower women to break free from the cycles of abuse, escape toxic environments, and rebuild their lives with financial confidence and independence. Kim, what an amazing bio and things that you have done over the course of 5 years. When we first started as a guest host here at WCEG Network, and you were one of our first guests for financial literacy, and where you're at now.
Well, it's been an amazing journey, Celeste. Financial literacy, as well as, domestic violence and financial abuse, have been something very close to my heart for many years. And you and I have had numerous discussions about both topics and how important it is to really shine a bright light on that. So, all of the success is really around the success of the message, because, it's all about what we're talking about. It's all about, bringing really bringing to the forefront these important topics.
Absolutely, Kim. I couldn't agree with you more. And for our audience and listeners here today, the chat is being monitored. If you have any questions, Kim's going to give us a wealth of information. She's also will probably have some recommendations as far as if you needed to reach out to a service or any organization. So please put your questions in the chat, because it is being monitored, and we will be glad to get to as many of those as we possibly can. So with that, I'm going to start off first, Sara, and you are really a big advocate for financial literacy, especially for women. Can you explain the connection between financial literacy and domestic violence?
So, as we mentioned just a little bit earlier, 99% of domestic violence victims are also victims of financial abuse. And it's 1 in 4 women who report that they are a victim of domestic violence. So we're talking about a lot of women. We've got 4 women on the call with us today. 1 in 4 women is a victim of domestic violence, and almost all of them, experience financial control. And it is, for an abuser, it's all about control. And money is one of the easiest ways to take control over another person, especially if there are children involved. So many women report that they stay or go back to abusive relationships primarily because of money, because they're completely financially dependent on their abuser, and they just don't know how to create anything for themselves outside of their abusive relationship without access to money.
Absolutely. Sarah, you got any comments on that?
It boggles the mind that that is still happening as much as it is today. As much as we try to help people, I guess, and you never know the person who's next to you if they're a victim of that or not, because I think it's a shameful. Some people feel shame with that, so they don't necessarily go get the help they need sometimes. It's just, I think we all maybe have felt a tinge of some of that along the way, maybe not to the degree that a lot of women do, but it just, it hurts my soul.
And absolutely. And so, Kim, so a lot of times when you have a husband and wife, okay, generally both husband and wife work, they contribute to the household income under a normal situation. But sometimes a woman doesn't have control of that. So if she works and he works, how does it usually end up when you say 1 in 4 women doesn't have control of money?
Well, what you see is, it never starts off looking like abuse, or it never starts off looking like control. But you might have your husband or your partner say, honey, you are busy. I want you to take care of yourself, or spend time taking care of the children or the house or pursuing your career, whatever it is. Let me handle the money. I'll pay the bills. I'll take care of all of this. I want to take care of you. And it may look very benign. It may even look loving from the beginning. But abusers are very manipulative, and they know inch by inch, little by little, they end up taking control over all of the money. And you end up I interviewed a police captain earlier today. She's a police captain in a police department in a very affluent area of Georgia. It doesn't matter the socioeconomic level. It doesn't matter your education background. None of that matters. You will find abuse in every single economic, educational situation. And so even when you've got professional women who are working, you'll find that they may be a victim of domestic violence. They may have to report all of their income to their spouse. A lot of the red flags around money issues are, about taking control of the money, having control over the bank accounts, limiting your access, ruining your credit, running up debt under your name so that you don't have access to financial resources, or, um, things like preventing you from working, or preventing you from getting ahead education wise. It's just all about that control over you as a person, and everything you can do that will give you access to a way out, whether it's family, friends, work, school, money. Your abuser is going to, over time, cut off that access and isolate you.
Wow, yes. So, are there any other red flags that we should be looking for in terms of financial abuse?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it is there. The red flags typically fall into one of three categories. The first one is all about the financial control, limiting your access to money, denying you information about money, maybe hiding money from you, demanding an accounting of every dollar you spend, criticizing your financial decisions, using money as a threat against you, maybe making financial decisions without consulting you or taking you into consideration at all. The second category is about employment or education sabotage. This is where the abuser is trying to really hurt your chances at making money or improving your financial situation. They may pressure you to miss or be late for work, harass you at school or at work, maybe harass your coworkers, your bosses, your school friends, belittle your accomplishments, or criticize your career choices. And then, of course, the worst being physically harming you to prevent you from going to school or going to work. And then the third category is economic exploitation. This is where they cut off your access to resources. Maybe they withdraw all the money from your bank accounts without your knowledge, add their name to your credit cards. Maybe they pay the mortgage or the other bills late, or they don't pay them at all. They may run up a lot of debt in your name and do things that are going to ruin your credit score. So it is a way to really isolate someone from a financial standpoint.
Mm. What advice do you have for women who want to escape an abusive situation?
So, it takes planning. And if you've got time to plan ahead of time, take the time. If you can't, if you are in danger, then get out and we'll figure it out afterwards. But if you've got time to set aside money, stash cash, open up a bank account, start a credit card that your abuser is not aware of, use a P.O. box address, an email address that your abuser is not aware of, or a friend or a family member's address that he won't have access of or have any knowledge of. Now, when you do these things, keep in mind, your abuser knows all of your personal information. They know your maiden name, your middle name, the name of your first pet. They know the high school mascot. They know your mother's maiden name. They know your social security number. So all of those questions that may get asked to change a password, he has access to. So pick login and passwords that he won't be able to guess. You got to really kind of separate yourself from that information. Don't fall back into those habits. Set money aside so you can escape with money because every aspect of leaving involves money, from putting gas in the car or getting a new apartment or putting food on the table. So you've got to be able to save what you can and get that credit card without his knowledge. Another thing that you need to do is you need to find the important documents. You may not be able to leave the home with these documents. You may only be able to leave the house with your phone. So use it. Take pictures. Take pictures of your marriage license, birth certificates, passports, health insurance cards, driver's licenses. Take pictures of everything. Take pictures of the bank accounts, the investment accounts, the retirement accounts. Take pictures of the automobiles, any other large assets, because all you may end up leaving with are those photographs of what the important assets and important documents are in your house. And then when you leave, talk to an attorney about, starting a separation or a divorce proceeding. And you're going to need those pictures in order to do that. But also, you may need to start, to get a restraining order to protect yourself, because when you leave, it is the most dangerous time. And so you really have to think through know what the next steps are before you take them, because it is the most dangerous time for you. But once you get out, there are so many resources available to help you. In addition to your family and friends, there are a lot of community resources and national resources that you can rely on to help you and your children if you've got children.
Well, and that's so true, Kim, because Sarah and I, we're two of the out of three co-founders of Women in Community Impact. And we've been doing this for, is it 9 years now, Sarah, or something, with Home of Hope, where it's a women's shelter, women and children's shelter. And these are good women that have fell on hard times, and 9 times out of 10, it's because of spousal abuse and financial abuse is what it is. And they had no place to go. They had no money. They had nothing. And this is a great program, and Maureen has done a fabulous job with that. So, you know, a lot of times these women with this financial abuse, they're good people. They just, you know,
True.
got
The
in a situation.
strongest people I know.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, you know, some people will say, well, they didn't know that. No, you don't know that situation until you have been in it, and it didn't happen in the beginning. It just took time and time and time, and that it surfaced. And so you can't hold that against that person, you know, because they were in a good relationship probably in the beginning, and then somebody went south, right?
Typically,
In the beginning they probably think, wow, this person really cares about me and my well-being. And that's how it could start.
So one thing I was going to ask you to clarify, Kim, was that you said get pictures, and I totally agree with that. If something is in their individual name, do they have permission to take those pictures and the information about those accounts and be used, or does it have to be that they have permission to get that if it's not in their name?
well, typically you're talking about a husband and wife, and spouses do have certain rights with respect to marital assets. And
Right,
so those investment accounts, bank accounts, even though they may be in the name of just one spouse, under state law, there is typically marital rights in those assets. And I wouldn't share the information with anyone but your attorney for privacy reasons, but you do want to make sure that you take pictures of what the important assets are.
absolutely. I just want to make sure that our listeners and audience understand, you know, when you were saying that, because it's a great idea to take those pictures, you know, especially if it's in a marital situation, and if it's not in a marital situation, um, you just need
If
to.
it's not in a marital situation and you don't have common law rights, you know, common law rights are set by state law. Each state is a little bit different. You just have to have an understanding of that. Consult with a lawyer, just Google it. You know, common law rights in Georgia, common law rights in whatever state you're in. But if you've got children and your abuser is the father of those children, then they have rights
Right.
that you are going to want to protect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I understand that many women who leave abusive relationships may have to start over completely or start from behind if they have bad credit or bankruptcies or foreclosures in their history. What can they do to improve their situation and get back on track?
There are a lot of things that they can do. First of all, tap into those resources that are out there, whether they're community resources or family or friends, to help you get back on your feet. You may need to move back in with your parents or in with a friend for a period of time so you can save money. But, in the long run, that's going to serve you well. That you've got that time to save money. But it is, about saving money, about finding a way to make money, whether it's, going back to school or working a couple of jobs, whatever it is you need to do to start bringing income into the household, and then just stash money away and then chip away at the debts. If you've got debts in your name that aren't your fault, that were caused by your abuser, there are innocent spouse programs out there at the tax level, at the state level, to help you kind of absolve yourself if you are truly the innocent spouse in a financial debt situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, as a tax professional, I've seen the innocent spouse thing, and it's heartbreaking when you see that, and you know they need that to get out from under the tax debt itself.
Oh yeah, where they didn't pay the taxes, or they filed jointly, or whatever it is, and they
Oh.
had no idea that they weren't even paying the taxes.
We'll see situations where the spouse takes the refund that's, that the innocent spouse is entitled to.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just awful, the things that they do. And you may end up, it may end up that the best way to clean slate it is to declare bankruptcy and, make that decision with a lawyer. But it's better to do that than to stay in an abusive relationship. It is better to get out and declare bankruptcy. You can always make more money. You can always clean up debt, but staying in an abusive situation, it's just not worth it.
Absolutely. And because a lot of times these women, they become conditional to the abuse. So they the abuse happens and they keep going back because their options are limited. And so, and there's that abuse where they go to work and they come home and that spouse is there, that abusive spouse, and you have to turn over that money to them right there. And you have nothing for you or your kids. And if you could, our audience or listeners, if you could just imagine not having access to zero money, what that makes you feel. You feel like a big zero. You feel like a loser. You feel helpless right there.
Right.
And nobody should feel like that. Nobody.
Right.
And if you've got girls in your family, teach them all about this so that they don't get sucked in to these same situations.
No, that's a good point. I mean, and very good point, Sarah.
So if we know somebody who's in a situation that may be abusive, what can we do to help?
We mentioned earlier that sometimes it takes somebody several times of going back before they've had enough and they're ready to leave. Don't give up on them. As a friend or a family member or a coworker, or colleague, whatever it is, don't give up on them. Sometimes people will say, well, they're just going to go back. Nothing I say is going to help. But just continue to be that understanding friend who lends an ear, will listen to them, who will provide them with an address, who, will help them when they're finally ready to leave. Just continue to be that friend. You don't know why somebody continues to go back, whether it's the kids, whether it's money, whether it's the shame, whatever it is.
All of
Just
the above.
all of the above, just continue to be there for them when they are finally ready to leave for good.
Well, and also, Kim, when you say, they go back 7 times or whatever. A lot of these women that are victims of abuse with children, a lot of times they can't go to a family member because the family member has helped time and time and time again. And sometimes family just says enough is enough. And again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but a lot of times they have nobody to go to.
Right. Just don't give up on people. Don't give up on your family members or friends, especially if there are kids involved. Don't give up because there will come a time when she's had enough, when she's seen enough, endured enough, there will come a time, and it may take 6, 7, 10 times before she's at the point where she's ready to cut ties completely. But just continue to be there as a caring friend or family member.
Well, and the other thing is to think not only is that woman being a victim of abuse, but those children are seeing and are also a victim of the abuse. And so they grow up thinking that this is the way relationships are. Daddy hits on mommy, or daddy takes mommy's money, or he raises a hand, or whatever it is. These kids see this, and it just breaks my heart that these kids have to grow up. And I understand that they go back 6 and 7 times, but that's just keeps reinforcing in those kids that they need to get professional help to try to wipe that slate clean.
True. And sometimes it's sometimes the abuser will threaten the kids if you leave, or I will get custody of the kids if you leave. Oftentimes people stay for what they feel is the good of the kids. So we're on the outside. I just wouldn't be so quick to judge. I've just talked to so many women who've gone through this, as I know in the work, Celeste, that you and Sara have done. You come across these women, they are the strongest people I know, and they care the deepest about their children. And so anyway, I just wouldn't be so quick to judge, and I would never give up.
No, and that's what our message to our audience and listeners here today is, if you've never been a victim of abuse, whether it's financial or physical, emotional or verbal abuse, you need to be compassionate for these mothers, these children. And I'm sure there's also somebody on here listening. There's also male, men are subjected to spousal abuse. I'm sure there's some of that too. But, you just need to be compassionate for that, because if you've never been there, especially today's time where a majority of people today, we grew up where our parents were both at home, and where we grew up and graduated from high school and went on to college and stuff like this. But a lot of people today, they grow up in single homes, single mothers or single fathers as parents, or their guardian is living with somebody else that's in that house, and that's the social thing that they think is the right way things are.
And sometimes that person just needs somebody to listen.
Yes.
Right.
That's a good point. So one of the characters in your book, How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It, is a survivor of domestic violence. Can you tell us more about Sara's story? And it's not Sara that's on with us today. and I want to put the
Right.
book up here, and I want you to tell people how they can get the book.
So, I wrote this book, How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It, with Sharon Lechter back in 2023. You can actually get the book at Amazon, or you could send me an email, kim@howmoneyworks.com, and I'd be glad to send you a book. Just make sure I know that you found out about it through this show, so I can give proper thanks to Celeste and Sara. But what we do in the book is we tell the story of financial literacy through the lives of 9 women. And one of the women is a domestic violence survivor. Her name in the book is Sara, no relation to Sara, but Sara. And Sara is actually based on a real live client of mine. Her name is not Sara, but I changed the name to protect the innocent. She came to me about 12 or 13 years ago. She had left an abusive relationship, very wealthy family. She left with nothing but her car and custody of their 2 kids. They were living in Florida. She moved back up to Georgia where her parents lived. She moved back in with her parents to save money. She took her real estate exam and is now 12 years later one of the top real estate agents in all of Atlanta. She's absolutely amazing. She owns her own home. She put both of her kids through college. She met a wonderful man in her church who treats her the way she deserves to be treated. And because of their blended family, she is now a grandmother, and they together are building their dream home. 12 years ago, it didn't look like any of that was possible, but it's all possible. You take the right steps financially, you take the right steps for your family, for your kids. You do those right things, and you will be on track for a happy ending. And I'm just very happy to report that the Sara in our book and the Sara who is my real life client, has a very happy ending. And so there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. And that's a blessing, and and finding her spouse in a church right there. And again, Sarah and I are big advocates on behalf of Women in Community Impact and Home of Hope. And there's amazing stories just like that for those women that get there, that they have a shelter for themselves and their children. They get to go to work. They educate them. They have people come in and teach them about financial literacy, from the banks that teach them about managing checking accounts and things of this nature, food and nutrition. And that these, the whole program, these people graduate, and they graduate with money in the bank, and they get to, have their own apartment that they've saved money for, that they put them in there. And so, there are so many different organizations like Home of Hope. And I think you're on the board of an organization, if I'm not mistaken, Kim. Are you for something?
I do work with Women's Shelter here in the Atlanta area very closely. All women's shelters, they do such amazing work. And if you feel, if this is something that really speaks to you, I encourage you to seek out, one of these amazing groups in your community and volunteer or donate. There's an organization here in Atlanta years ago, they needed a new washer. And so me and another woman went in together and we bought them a new washer. There are things like that that you can do, small and big, that you can do to help these women. And so I just encourage you to look for those opportunities in your community.
It's it's something else I was just thinking about. So, if Sarah had children and they were girls, seeing her get out of that situation and how she handled that was just as much a great lesson as seeing how it all happened, how it affected them. That helps those girls to understand you can get out of these situations.
Right. Well, and I think even for sons, it's important for them to see, a strong mother being able to leave that situation and show them an example of what a healthy relationship looks like or what a healthy living situation looks like. Unfortunately, there are bad examples out there
Yes.
for children. They don't know what a healthy couple looks like. And as a financial professional, I work with a lot of married couples, and it's about both people participating in the financial decision making, both people asking their questions, both people feeling safe in each other's company to ask whatever question it is they want to ask about the money. Setting goals together, setting money aside together. And, oftentimes I kind of chuckle when I sit down with a married couple, usually one person is a spender and one person is a saver. And so that kind of sets them up to butt heads. But if you have a very healthy, safe conversation about it and come up with a plan so that the spender feels like they can spend without a lot of scrutiny, and the saver feels like they can save those things that they need to feel safe. If you come up with a plan to take care of both of their needs, you can create a very healthy relationship around money. And
Absolutely.
so I would love for children to see that in their parents. And it's up to us as parents. I'm a single mom. It's up to us as parents to set that example.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I want to go back on what Sarah was saying, and what you were saying earlier about the example, Sarah, is I tell the story every year in October, but it touches my heart. That we've done 9 years. We have done a Mother's Day dinner at Home of Hope for the mothers. Everybody does things for the children, and by all means, we want to do things for the children. But what we saw, Sarah, it was a need that nobody did anything for the mothers. And, can you imagine spending a holiday, whether it's Mother's Day, you feel like this already, being in a homeless shelter with you and your children because you are protecting them and you got out of financial, abuse. And 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 so it's Mother's Day. So we decided to give them a nice 5-course meal, linen tablecloths, real china, everything. We have people that donate, gifts to go in a gift bag where the mother is showered with gifts. We partner with Home Depot or Kroger and give them flowers and other organizations in the community. And we serve them. We have somebody sit down at the table with the family and mentor and have an actual meal like a real family with them. And then we have male spouses. It's usually one of our volunteer spouses. The men serve the food to the mother and the children. And Sarah, I say this because it broke my heart. It just made my heart happy that I remember one of the women there at the shelter, one of the first times we did it, and we asked them, did you enjoy yourself and everything? And she said, what I enjoyed the most was that I could see these men serving us, and it gave me hope that there were good men in the world for them. So you talked about people volunteering and giving back. That is so important. If you can go there as a couple, cook a meal or do something or participate, mentor with the children, that is huge for them while they're in that situation to see the good in the world and what the future holds for them.
Right. And I always receive more than I give.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, you've worked with many survivors of domestic violence. What's the main message you have for our listeners, especially if they're going through this or know someone who is?
I would say let's talk about it. I love that we're on this program and we come together every October because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we talk about it. We bring this level of awareness, share your story. Understand that there are a lot of women out there who are kind of suffering in silence. And I think it's really important for them to know that they are not alone, that there are women who have gone before them. There are women who are ready to help. There are a lot of community resources available. You are not alone, and it is not your fault. And so, raising awareness, talking about it, sharing your story, I think is really important to do for, people who are in the situation. And if you're kind of a bystander and you want to find a way to help someone you love who's in that situation, just raise the level of awareness and the level of caring.
Those are all great messages for our listeners out there.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice for women who are in healthy relationships who want to create a healthy relationship around money with their partner?
Well, it's a lot of the things that we talked about in terms of, each person in a couple feeling like they are an equal participant and respecting the other partner's side of things, creating that safe space, raising your hand, asking questions. Don't One of the things that was very interesting in the research that I did for the book was around married couples and how married couples handle money. Most of the time, women defer the financial decisions to the husband. The women are busy, with raising the children, taking care of the house, putting dinner on the table, pursuing their career. Whatever it is, women are super busy. And so the men take on this responsibility. A lot of men, according to the research, would love for their spouse to be more involved in the money. what I didn't realize is for men, for a lot of men, it is a huge weight on their shoulders to be the provider and to be the primary decision maker when it comes to money. And so they really want the woman to be involved. But just as we as women have been raised and socialized to be the caregivers, the men have been raised and socialized to be the providers. So we can't complain about being caregivers, and they can't complain about being providers. But it is a huge responsibility to them that I didn't see. Not being a man, not being raised that way, I didn't expect that. When I've had this conversation with men, it's like you see their shoulders sag, like from just the weight of them. Yes, I would love for my wife to be more involved. I would love for her to tell me how, for her to have a conversation with me about what we want to do with the family money, about how we want to spend our retirement, and how we save for that. There are a lot of men who would love to have that conversation with their wives. The other thing that I would point out is 80% of men die married, while 80% of women die single. So if you leave the decision making to your partner, you may end up holding the bag anyway. So why not get smart about it earlier?
No, absolutely. And one thing, Kim, about that, when you were talking about having conversations, and for our audience and listeners, a lot of times women build up a defensive wall to have that conversation because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And sometimes, whether it's a man or a woman that has problem with communication and dialogue, it's how you handle it. Is if you handle it where you're attacking that person or making them feel bad that they don't feel comfortable to come to you, then they're never going to come to you to have that conversation. They have to feel safe that they can speak from their heart about how they feel about something without being verbally abused.
Well, exactly. And sometimes that's a place where a financial professional or a CPA or other person on the money side of things can kind of step in and be a mediator and help kind of translate if one person's defensive, another person's being a little aggressive, that financial professional can kind of step in and, talk things through and kind of bring the level of anxiety down and have a reasonable, objective conversation because they're on the same team. The
Yes,
husband and wife are on the same team. Let's, create the same goals and bring in a professional like me or Sarah or someone else to help you accomplish those goals.
absolutely. And just go into the conversation where you're not pointing the finger and making accusations. You're looking for a solution. You're not here to pick a winner or a loser because you're both guilty at some point of something, right?
Yeah, but not me.
Not me. Yeah, not
Not
me.
me.
Now I've got one client, a husband and wife. Every 10 years they switch. So for 10 years, one partner will handle the money and everything. The next 10 years, the other one will.
Interesting.
That's interesting. 10 years. That's a long
That's a
time.
long
Well,
time.
well, you have in the first you're so uncomfortable with it. It takes time to learn it and to understand it, right? And especially if you've never done that, right? In my line of work, I do this type of thing all the day. No big deal to me. But you get some of these older women who've never touched any of that. It's a very uncomfortable thing. It takes time to learn it and to understand it. And that was where the 10 years came in. Then I'd say 90% of my clients who lose a spouse, it's the man who dies, right? And most of those women are older and they have no clue what's
No
going
idea.
on.
No.
None.
It's so sad. I have sat down with many widows. The first question a widow will ask me is, will I lose my house?
Yeah.
She has no idea what the mortgage is, how the mortgage is being paid, Is there life insurance? Any of that? She's terrified that she's going to lose her house. And that's scary and that's sad. And so I want to help all women understand that part of it. If you're too busy to understand all of it, understand that part of it. How much do you owe on your house and how is that being paid off?
Absolutely. And, Kim, there are programs out there. Financial literacy is in April. Is that when it is? Financial Literacy Month?
That's right, April.
April.
I think
That,
that's when we talked the last time.
yeah, we did. You talked in April for that. And, and
Yeah,
I say to Sarah, for you that, with the people that you have, I really feel like as a CPA or something that families need to, women need to be made aware of these courses or classes that they can take that will help educate them. See, I think that's part of the problem too, is that they don't have enough education that what they need to know until it's too late, until that spouse has died. You know
right.
what I'm saying? And so, that this is something that, that maybe you partner, collaborate with Sarah, somebody that teaches financial literacy, or somebody that you give out to them when they do their taxes and they pay you, you give this to them because you've had that discussion with them. Do they know this, and you have somebody that you can pass them off to that they can get some education and knowledge. I know that's not abuse part, but it's just good information, I think.
I try to empower them, give them confidence, because so many of them, and it was an abusive relationship, they just never did it, right? They
Right.
were they were the caregiver, just like Kim said. But I try to empower them to do things. And I even say, hey, look, if you need a little bit of help, make an appointment, come in, we'll do it together the first time, right? You just so that they've got somebody with them. Because if you're staring at a computer and you've never done this before, that's a very overwhelming feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love programs like Home of Hope and the different programs that you serve on the board, Kim, that I'm sure that they educate these women that have left the abusive relationships, that they're getting that education in those, homes or programs or things of that nature to educate them on what they need to know.
Yes.
So we are getting about 7 minutes here. So Kim, how can women reach out to you? And just would love some closing comments from you. And then Sarah, I'm going to ask you, and then I'll give mine.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, both of you, for having me on the show. I love really talking about this. I love talking about this with you both because I know it's a subject you care about as well. So, if someone wants to get in touch with me, really the best way is to email me. And it's pretty easy. It's kim@howmoneyworks.com. Just send me an email, or you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. The other thing that I wanted to mention is if you're going through a situation like this, and we've mentioned that there are a lot of resources out there. One resource I want to mention online is www.domesticshelters.org. And if you go to that website, you can type in your zip code and it'll help you identify what resources are near you. The other resource I want to mention is the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and their number is 1-800-799-7233. That stands for SAFE. 7233 is SAFE. So it's 1-800-799-SAFE. And so if you're in this situation and you want someone to talk to, they are a great organization to reach out to. And, my closing thought is just something that we've talked about through all of this. You are not alone. There are so many places, people who are willing to help. Please don't be embarrassed or feel ashamed. It's not your fault. It happens to the best of us. And so please reach out for help.
Absolutely. One of our listeners asked you to repeat the two items you just gave links to, please.
Sure. It's www.domesticshelters with an S, shelters.org. And then the phone number for the National Domestic Hotline is 1-800-799-7233.
Very good. Sarah, any closing comments?
It, like I said, it hurts my soul with all this. I'm just thankful that Kim and you and other women are out there helping these women to get their life back on track. And just a separate question, are you taking on any financial planning clients?
I am.
Okay.
I've just come off of a multi kind of travel tour. But I'm back in the office. I still have a couple of more trips to make, but I'm back in the office and very happy to help clients with their financial planning.
Okay. Because I like to recommend women to other women.
I feel the same way.
Absolutely. And you're also, you're a lawyer, so you still do law work, Kim?
I do. I'm licensed to practice law in Georgia and in Kentucky.
And Kentucky, right there. And Kim, our heart just loves your heart. I mean, we can see the passion in you in serving the domestic violence women and children that are involved in this thing. The financial literacy. I mean, we've known you for many, many years, and we just love what you advocate for and the love that you have to serve other people. You serve on boards and other organizations. You walk the walk, you talk the talk. You are the real deal. You really are. So
I feel the same way about you both. That's why I love spending time with you.
And we cannot thank WCEG Network, its board, and Penny Rogers for the opportunity to present this program here this month. It's an amazing program. And again, please reach out to Kim. She's given the information. It's in the chat right there if you need to get a hold of her. If you're looking for a good CPA or accountant, bookkeeper, Sara Poe with Poe's Accounting Services in Decula. It's in the chat right there. You're looking for a good business mentor, master sales strategist, you're looking at Celeste Giordano, celestegiordano.com. And if you're looking for a great nonprofit organization in the local Gwinnett County, Georgia area, as well as in Tennessee, or excuse me, in Cincinnati, our nonprofit womenofcommunityimpact.com. We serve homeless mothers and children as well as foster children. And we have some programs going on this month right now and next month for pajamas for foster children. So thank you for everything, Kim. We wish you the best, a happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, safe travels to where you're going to be going next. And just thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Yes,
Celeste.
thank you.
And thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. You're the best. Love you guys.